Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We have a nice crowd here tonight, which is great. As always, the video of this meeting is streamed live on YouTube and will be available on Facebook and the Village's website. At this time, I'd call the meeting to order and ask Deputy Clerk Jones to call the roll.
Trustee Augustine.
Here.
Trustee Gale.
Here.
Trustee McGee. Here. Trustee O'Brien.
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Here.
President Kukler.
Here, and Clerk Saladino is unable to join us tonight, and that's why Deputy Village Manager Jones, or Deputy Clerk, or both hats, Jones is leading us as acting clerk. So with that, I'd ask everybody to stand and have Clerk Jones lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice. As most of you know, today's Earth Day, and we're going to have a climate presentation presented, which is atfantastic. We also want to discuss Arbor Day, which is Friday, April 26th. The village is well known for its tree-lined streets and dedication to the healthy and thriving urban tree canopy. In recognition of this dedication, the village has been named Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 41 consecutive years. It's received its 10th Tree City USA Growth Award for outstanding forestry management practices. The observation serves to honor the legacy of Franklin Cossett, the village's founding father, who planted the village's first urban forest. This year, Arbor Day will be celebrated with the students from 7th Avenue Elementary School and will include a flowering crab tree planted on the grounds of the school. The tree planting ceremony will take place this Friday, April 26th at 10 a.m. And everybody is welcome, board, staff, and of course, our residents. We will be joined by Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Petrick and the 4th grade students. The Grange Garden Club has graciously offered to donate for the purchase of the tree, and we thank them for their generous contribution. I'll now read the proclamation establishing April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in Grange. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas the village of LaGrange is characterized by its stately and tree-lined streets And whereas the village makes a continued effort to preserve the aesthetic beauty and environmental benefit of its tree canopy by appropriate urban forestry, planting, and reforestation. And whereas the forestry and tree planting program will continue to be an integral part of the services the Village of LaGrange provides to its residents, businesses, and schools. Whereas the Village of LaGrange recognizes the interest in and desire for a healthy urban forest from the whole entire community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of LaGrange does hereby proclaim Friday, April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day. And therefore, be it further resolved that an Arbor Day shall be marked with an Arbor Day tree planting ceremony on Friday, April 26, 2024 at the 7th Avenue Elementary School, and shall serve to recognize its students' efforts to improve our urban forest. So thank you with that. And we don't need any vote, correct, on that? Terrific. Moving on, we do have a resolution requesting the closure of LaGrange Road from 47th Street to Burlington Avenue for the annual Pet Parade. This, let me get my notes because I did want to add one thing. The village is excited to host the 78th annual Pet Parade on Saturday, June 1st. It's always the first Saturday after Memorial Day, and June 1st is that first Saturday. Pet Parade Charities raises funds to donate to donate a dog to veterans. And the Pet Parade Charities is looking for sponsorships as well as volunteers. So if anybody is interested in sponsoring or volunteering, they can go to lagrangepetparade.org and sign up or donate. Again, the Pet Parade is a charitable organization. It does raise money, over $100,000 it costs to put on the Pet Parade. And then any money in excess of that, they donate to K9 for Vets, which provides vets with dogs at no charge to the vet. And it's a great program that's been around, and it's really served a lot of vets. And so we hope you can donate. Again, the Pet Parade has been attended by generations of families who have come out to enjoy their friends and neighbors while celebrating their pets. And so we look forward to seeing everyone on June 1st. And with that, I would ask for a motion to approve a resolution for closure of 47th Street for the Pet Parade, and a second.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee Gale. With that, I would ask if there's any discussion. Seeing none, I would ask Clerk Jones to call the roll.
Trustee Augustine? Trustee
Aye.
Gale?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee Thompson?
And that passes unanimously. Keeping with that weekend, the LaGrange Carnival. On the weekend of the Pet Parade, the LaGrange Business Association holds the LaGrange Carnival. This event runs throughout the weekend and offers carnival attractions, food and beverage vendors, and various games of skill and chance. The family-friendly event is scheduled to start Friday, May 31st, and conclude on Sunday, June 2nd. The carnival will be held on Harris Avenue between LaGrange and Ashland Avenue in the following hours of operation. Friday from 5 to 10, Saturday starting at noon to 10, and Sunday from noon to 9. We look forward to this community event. We know that it will be successful, and we wish the LGBA all the luck in the world. Kathy, would you like to say anything more? Feel free.
Thank you, everyone.
Once again, the Grange Business Association will be hosting the carnival. We're very excited about this. This is a very big fundraiser for the LGBA, and the money we raise helps to support and market other the LaGrange other events. So we're very excited about hosting this event once again this year. We continue to have a very strong relationship with Windy City Amusements, who will provide and operate the carnival, the food booths, and games with the high standards of safety. Windy City Amusements has one of the very highest safety ratings on record, and each day the rides are inspected prior to opening day by one of their trained supervisors. In addition, the rides are inspected annually by the state of Illinois and their insurance company. Again, I want to reiterate the hours of operation. Starting on Thursday, May 30th at 6 a.m., the carnival setup will begin. Friday, May 31st will run from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday, June 1st, the carnival will operate from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. And Sunday, June 2nd, the carnival will operate from noon to 9 p.m. And then on Monday, June 3rd, carnival breakdown will be completed by 6 a.m. Everything is ready. We have some sponsors and food vendors, and we're all ready to go. Just keep your fingers crossed for good weather. Thank you.
Perfect, and thank you very much. And again, it's a lot of work by the LGBA. It's also a lot of work from Public Works, our police department, and our fire department. So we want to thank everybody on the village staff for all the hard work that they do to make sure that the pet parade and the carnival are always fun for the whole family. Farmers Market, it is springtime. It will start back up on May 9th and continue through October 24th. Please come out and join your friends and neighbors for this open-air market that features fresh produce by family farmers from Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Indiana. I know there's also food booths that the community seems to really enjoy. The market will take place on Thursdays on Harris Avenue between LaGrange Road and 6th Avenue from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's rain or shine, so pretty much it's definitely going to be there on Thursdays, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. So please come on out, and you can always go to the LGBA website for more information. As I started out with, it's also Earth Day, so I wish everyone here in attendance happy Earth Day. Anybody watching live, happy Earth Day. And for those people that are watching later, I hope you had a great Earth Day. There are many ways to care for the planet and for LaGrange. I encourage you, as well as the whole board encourages you, to visit the LaGrange's website for a list of actions that have been developed by the village's Environmental Quality Commission. And we're going to hear a great presentation later this afternoon, or evening. With that, Manager Knight, is there a manager's report?
There is, and thank you, President Kukler. Good evening, everyone. One step that can be taken to help protect the environment is to safely dispose of medications. In addition to regularly providing this option through a collection box found in the lobby of the LaGrange Police Department, the village will be participating in the DEA Drug Take Back this Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. During the event, participants can safely dispose of medications and visit an information table that will be on site for the event. I want to thank the police department, Sergeant Nemechuk, and Pillars Community Health for coordinating the event. Item A under current business this evening is a contract with Abbey Co. Incorporated for the resurfacing of the village's parking lot 3 with permeable pavers. Staff have made arrangements with Cosset Avenue School to use the playground for parking during construction, which is planned for this summer. We thank the school for their partnership as we pursue this important project. Final construction date will be shared once that has been confirmed with the contractor. Lastly, in observance of Earth Day, the EQC will be presenting a presentation here. I'd like to invite Director Colby to provide an overview of the presentation at this time.
Thank you and good evening. So here shortly we'll hear a presentation from the Environmental Quality Commission regarding the endorsement of a climate action plan for the Chicago region. The climate action plan for the Chicago region was developed by the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, a membership organization consisting of 275 cities, towns, and villages from the region. It was developed in 2021. The development of the climate action plan for the Chicago region encompasses 2 goals, each with its own interim targets and objectives: to reduce future impacts and to adapt to the changing climate. They include net zero greenhouse gas emissions and persistent equitable climate adaptation. The Environmental Quality Commission has reviewed and discussed the benefits of adopting the CAP over the past year to better understand how this additional framework would align with the village's ongoing sustainability efforts. The primary framework currently followed by the village is the Greenest Region Compact 2, which provides measured sustainability goals across a broad array of initiatives. The Climate Action Plan, in contrast, includes some overlap, but includes a more comprehensive and strategically aimed efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which will in turn mitigate climate change. The benefits of adopting a climate action plan include partnering with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and other large national agencies and working to measure regional greenhouse gas data, assess regional climate risk, evaluate vulnerability efforts. Currently, 42 municipalities and counties have endorsed the climate action plan through resolution. A list of those entities can be found in your attachments. The Climate Action Plan sets science-based mitigation targets for greenhouse gas emissions, reduces equitable climate adaptation targets. Although the plan is regional in scope, the strategies in the plan are specifically tailored for action at the municipal scale. That's what we seek to pursue, is what actions we can take locally here to make a difference. The EQC will present their review of the Climate Action Plan, provide additional background, provide a recommendation regarding a resolution to adopt the 2021 Climate Action Plan for the Chicago region. The resolution would be non-binding and provide access towards a regional framework that has additional resources to track and measure regional progress towards these goals. Upon adoption, the EQC would include related goals into their 2024 work plan and measure and report progress as part of their annual review. This time, I'll turn it over graciously to the members of the EQC for presenting this evening. Thank you.
Hi, and happy Earth Day. We'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to come here today on the most fitting of days. My name is Molly Mahoney. This is Yana Svek and Dan Mullen. We're members of the EQC for the last several years, as well as residents of Grange for collective 40 years. As commissioners of the EQC, it is our role to study on a continuing basis sources of environmental pollution that have harmful effects on health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the village, and to develop and recommend to the Board of Trustees an environmental quality program to promote and protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the village. We are here today to recommend that the Village Board adopt the Metropolitan Mayor Caucus's Climate Action Plan for the Chicago region, which we will call the CAP for purposes of this presentation. We plan to present an overview of the CAP and will be happy to answer any questions. For those who are not aware, LaGrange has a good track record of leading in sustainability. If you don't know, please visit the Green Initiatives page on the Village website for the annual reports of everything the EQC has accomplished. With the EQC's recommendation, this board has previously endorsed the Greenest Region Compact in 2018 and Soul Smart in 2019. As the challenges continue to grow and solutions become more available, we are now positioned to take our next step in our sustainability journey by adopting the CAP.
So I think it's, as part of this, it's going to be important to help kind of you guys understand what a climate action plan is. And I look at it really kind of in three ways. One, it's, you know, a set of initiatives embodied within a framework that really focus on two things. And the first one being mitigation, and that's reducing greenhouse gas emissions to prevent further harm to our planet from the greenhouse gas emissions. And second is adaptation and preparing for the climate of the future, ensuring that the impacts of climate change as they're happening now and unfolding before us, that we're ready for them. And as we've said, this is a regional climate action plan put forth by the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. It's non-binding, but really it's a bit different from our Greenest Region Compact agenda in that where the Greenest Region Compact is a series of initiatives, activities sort of focused on their respective areas within the environment. This really looks to concentrate those initiatives into these two main focus areas around mitigation and adaptation. So it's really bringing all the work that we're already doing in many ways and focusing them towards two very intentional outcomes. And so the second thing I would say that along with this climate action plan is it does open up the doors for this village for additional revenue grants funding that could be made available to us through other federal programs. The Inflation Reduction Act, I believe, has set aside $6 billion or so around that tune for municipalities like ours that are adopting climate action plans like this. And so in working with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, we would look for opportunities to bring some of that to the village to support some of these initiatives as well. And then really lastly, I think it's not written here, but it really is a symbolic sort of gesture as well. And I think that it's signaling to our communities internally and other communities outside of LaGrange that this is a fight worth fighting. It's a very important cause. And it also, I would say, kind of mobilizes the EQC and other community members, schools, residents to follow the leadership of this board and take action and kind of wake up to the notion that this is an important subject and one that we should all be focused on. So that's in the essence kind of what the CAP is, and I think in its literal sense, right? It really is kind of broken down to these two buckets. You've got the mitigation side and the adaptation side, and the plan actually does a really nice job of laying out specific initiatives within each of these two categories. And so the thing also that's different about the Climate Action Plan than the Greenest Region Compact is that the CAP has time-bound, kind of time horizon sort of objectives. So within climate mitigation, greenhouse gas emission reduction, from a regional standpoint, there are specific targets by 2030, 2040, 2050, where we want to see a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions regionally. And then from an adaptation standpoint, there are also sort of similar milestones on a similar time horizon. So the Climate Action Plan is available online. Anybody can go and look at it. What we would do as the EQC would be look at some of the initiatives, identify what we think is appropriate for LaGrange, make the recommendations, and continue to partner with yourselves on it, and Director Colby and several other staff members on what we should be doing. And here's an example, I would say, of kind of the mitigation side of the plan. So we would look at the various emission sources that LaGrange has from a greenhouse gas emission standpoint, and identify areas of opportunity within these various sources. And so what you're looking at is a starting point in 2015 about 110 megatons of CO2 emissions were generated from the region at that time. So business as usual indicates that greenhouse gas emissions will continue to go up. And the more the greenhouse gas emissions go up, the warmer the planet becomes, and the more significant, more frequent, more extreme climate events we're going to be seeing, among other things. But by 2050, we want to see an 80% reduction from our 2015 level. And so from a regional standpoint, we want to be contributing to that regional effort. And so for us to help the region get on that pathway, we need to start seeing some more action and adoption of initiatives within these specific areas. And so decarbonization of transportation and energy sources are going to be two of the big focus areas that we see as part of this. And so, just as an example, this is a breakdown of the energy side, right? There are several initiatives. There are things before the EQC, just in our last March meeting, where we were looking at aggregating renewable electricity for the village, and there's other things like this that we can continue to focus on. On the adaptation side, right? This is the other side of the house when you think about the Climate Action Plan. The adaptation side is really about preparing for the climate of the future. We have a lot of infrastructure in place that I think many of us understand were built for climates of the past and present. We need to be thinking about the future in terms of our long-term planning, along with the comprehensive plan, in terms of what sort of infrastructure we need to be putting in place to ensure that we minimize the impacts of the climate change events that are already happening before us. And so this is water, right? This is something that's very near and dear to our community. Right, it's the flooding, it's the homes, it's the heat, it's the air pollution. These are things that are already happening before us today. These are things that are varying in the time of year that we're in. And the mitigation side will help minimize and reduce the future impacts of that, but the adaptation is a way for us to react and prevent further impacts from those things. So again, this plan outlines in very good detail kind of how we can approach both sides of that. And so really, I think just to kind of bring it home, and again, we'll open it up to questions if there's folks that are interested. But I think the other thing to point out is that this is in a way of us standing on the shoulders of giants. There are people, there's the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus that have already put forward this plan. And instead of us coming up with one for our community, we can effectively jump into that effort and really kind of take advantage of some of the synergies that are already out there with this effort. And again, I think this would mobilize the EQC with a very purposeful intention in terms of what we should be focused on as a commission, and bring forth recommendations back to the board. So I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Speck.
Yes, thank you. And to Dan's point, these are all the communities that have already endorsed the CAP. So you can see them listed, almost 40 communities. And there is an increasing trend to have a climate action plan or to endorse one among villages. And we don't want to fall behind as the Grange community. So what's next? At this time, we are not asking the board to adopt any specific policy that is included in the climate action plan. Those will be continued to be evaluated and reviewed by the EQC and the board. And as a reminder that while this resolution is non-binding, it is still a good practice to model and use as we seek continued engagement as leaders in this topic. So thank you very much for allowing us to give this presentation to the board. And at this time, if there are any questions, please don't hesitate.
Well, let me start out by thanking you, Commissioners Mullen, Speck, and Mahoney. We do appreciate all the effort and work that you and the other people on the EQC put into what a great project and documents you've presented and slides and everything. And so with that, I would open it up to the board if there's any specific questions or general questions even. Any questions? Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, guys. As President Kugler just said, we're very happy to have you here on this day talking about this subject. And I hope to see this kind of presentation live and in person in front of this board several times a year, because some of these issues are so big, it really helps to do it in person rather than sending just another document, that may not have the impact. This is super important, and as you were mentioning, the comprehensive plan that we'll be working on completing very soon, I love the idea of making sure that climate action plan is noted on every page with every individual thing that we do, just so that we're always thinking about what we can do to make it greener, and you guys can be a big help there. There's a lot of us who have probably some ideas on where we can go into specifics down the road, but so we don't need to talk about that tonight, but I just look forward to hearing some of your specific recommendations for us and presenting those so that we have a sense of which way to go, because this board and this staff can't do it all. We rely on the strength of our commissions to really take these things seriously and then deliver us some ideas. So once again, thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. And I also want to welcome Edith Macra from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus for joining us in the presentation. So thank you, Edith, for coming out tonight. Any other? Trustee Thompson.
Good evening, and again, thank you guys for coming. It was always a pleasure serving on the EQC with you, and appreciate y'all getting this to us. Just two questions. So does this replace the greenest pack? Are we still going to go after some of the goals that were in the greenest pack? And then how long will it be, do you think, before you'll start bringing goals back to us to work on? So like we approve this tonight, then when will y'all start coming back with set goals that we should start working on so we can keep this moving?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I didn't admittedly hear the first part of the question, but I did hear the second question. I can answer that one.
Well, so the first question was, so the greenest pact, we're moving away from that, but are we still going to continue to work on the greenest pact initiatives in association with this, or will they become goals in this process? Yeah,
I would say that this is just another arrow in the quiver, if you so to speak. I think the GRC there's a lot of overlap in the two, and I don't think we're walking away from the Greenest Region Compact. I think if anything, we're elevating it, taking action and items from that and giving them purpose towards specific outcomes. And that's really what the CAP will allow us to do, to mobilize kind of on a plan forward. And I think in terms of a time horizon, we're already looking at opportunities in which that will have a carbon emission reduction impact. So I'd say certainly, there are things that we could probably bring back to this group this year, certainly. The EQC meets every other month, so 6 times a year is not as often as maybe we could in terms of the progress that we'd like to see. So formally, from an EQC standpoint, I would expect that probably we'd need to let 1 or 2 cycles occur before we kind of align on exactly what that kind of recommendation would be. But I think we can take the action from, and that's exactly what we want to do on the EQC, is take a little bit more direction and have you guys kind of outline exactly what you'd like to hear from us, and we can action that and bring some of those things back to the board. So I would say that certainly by the summer, fall timeframe, we'd like to have collective alignment in terms of what we'd like to focus on as a starting point. I think this is a multi-year journey, no doubt. So I'd like to set that expectation that I think we're on the start of something bigger. But we understand certainly the urgency and would like to move with pace.
Just going to add one thing to Trustee Augustine's point, and the idea here is that, going forward, in so many of the decisions made by the board would be environmental related. That's just where it's going. So, like you said, on the plan, we should be on the comprehensive plan, that is, we should be thinking about going to the regional climate action plan in almost every step. What can we do here to push the limits a little bit more? And that's the goal here. So while we don't have specific things right now, we're working on kind of changing the EQC to push that. Every month we're looking at what's going on at the board. What are you guys approving? How can we bring some of these recommendations to you guys to approve?
Thank you, Dan and Molly. And anything else? Trustee Thompson.
Me?
Trustee Peterson.
Thank you, President Kukler. I know one of the goals of EQC, I also came out of EQC, is to educate the residents. And is that going to be part of your plans here, to educate the residents? This is a great plan. I'm really happy you're here and reading about it. And I'd like to see that incorporated, the idea of educating our residents into what this is all about and what your steps are. I'd really like to see some of that too brought to us and even just brought out into the community. So however thoughts you have on that, you can share with us at another time. But I'd really be looking forward to that too.
Education is a huge part, in the plan as well, of things we can be doing. And I agree with you. That's, if we can push this out to the schools, to the high schools. LT has an environmental group, even working in tandem with them. That's some of the stuff that we can do going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think we look at the residents as one of many stakeholders kind of in the process. I think there's business, there's schools, there's residents, there's staff, right? I think there's everyone that we have to consider in kind of how we're going to be kind of approaching this. So absolutely.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. Trustee Gale, do you have a question? Or I wasn't sure if you did or not.
No, I didn't have a question. More of just a statement to thank. Thank you again, Dak, everybody else. Thank you for coming out. I enjoyed when I was a liaison to your committee as well, or the commission. You guys do good work. And I did want to add. I find whenever I find myself in these discussions about climate change and action plans, I always am reminded of anytime I go to any insurance conference. These aren't very exciting things, but they always talk about climate change because in the world of insurance, they're like, this is a real thing, and building in resilience is critically important. And so I like that aspect of what this is going to do, and that should be baked into whatever recommendations you give to us as well, because that climate action resiliency is just coming like a freight train, and we're going to need it. So thanks.
Well, thanks again, Dan, Ian, and Molly. We do appreciate you coming out. Kind of the next step is staff is looking for a little bit of direction. And the first step would be for the board to decide whether to direct staff to draft a resolution adopting the plan. So with that, I would ask, does any trustee want to make a motion to direct staff to prepare a resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. On a second.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. With that, I would ask clerk. I'm sorry, what? With that, I would ask Deputy Clerk Jones for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee McGee. Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. So thank you for coming out. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Big first steps, so that's great. Moving on, at this time, I'd request that Deputy Village Clerk Jones read the items on the consent agenda, followed by those appearing under current business.
Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they have already been considered fully by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of a routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to current business for separate consideration. Item A, an ordinance amending Chapter 111 of the Grange Code of Ordinances regarding Class A liquor licenses. Item B, an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone the property located on the west side of Stone Avenue and north of Hillgrove Avenue into the C2 West End Commercial District. Item C, a resolution approving a bill of sale for the acceptance of public infrastructure, RE Mason Point Plan Development at 441 9th Avenue. Item D, a resolution repealing R2403 and approving an IGA with the Board of Education of LTHS District 204 for reciprocal reporting, digital image access, and a school resource officer. Item E, a resolution authorizing approval of Task Order 281 with Baxter and Woodman for engineering related to Parking Lot 3 reconstruction. Item F, minutes of the Village Board of Trustees meeting Monday, April 8th, 2024. Item G, consolidated voucher 240422. In current business, this agenda item includes consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, a resolution approving a contract between the village and Abbey Co. for Parking Lot 3 reconstruction. Item B, fiscal year 2023-24 fourth quarter financial report. Item C, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2024-25 operating and capital improvements budget.
Thank you, Deputy Village Clerk Jones. With that, I would invite anyone from the public that has any comments regarding matters on tonight's agenda. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. With that, I would open it up for trustee questions or comments.
I have something to say, as I usually do. Mr. President, thank you. As previously stated, I recuse myself from all items on our agenda relating to the village prosecutor. And then I had one, are we at the point where we can talk about the items?
Sure. You can either remove it or just briefly talk about it, whatever you prefer.
Yes, thanks. I don't want to remove anything from the consent agenda to current business for consideration. I just did want to make a comment about item A, the ordinance amending the Grange Code of Ordinance regarding Class A liquor license. So I'm going to support this measure, and it's going to be very beneficial to a lot of our restaurants. But and I sit on the Liquor Commission, so I'm familiar with it. But kind of reviewing it again a little bit further, I just had a couple questions, and we don't have to answer them tonight, but I would like to revisit these areas at the next Liquor Commission meeting. And one of them is, for example, in the conditions specific to brew pubs holding Class A restaurant license, and this has been there. A brew pub holding a Class A restaurant license may sell beer brewed on premise for consumption off premises only in packages of not more than 6 cans of 12 or 16 ounces each, or in growlers no larger than 32 ounces, or in bombers not larger than 750 milliliter glass bottles, and goes on to say a few more things. I guess my question is, why would we limit consumption for off-site sales? Someone might want to come and stock their fridge before a party, but to make them come back several times. I just don't understand why we'd limit, and we can talk about that down the road.
Just so you know, it doesn't, I don't believe, limit it to you can only purchase one. It was that brew pubs, and I still think they are packaged usually in 4-packs or 6-packs. And I think that was the idea, that those would be the sales. But if, and it's obviously just Milk Money Brewery, that's our only brewery, but if they were in fact starting to package in 12-packs or cases, they could come and say, could you amend that? I think we would. But the idea is they're only selling them in 4-packs, I believe. They may have 6-packs in some.
Yeah.
But you can buy multiple. You can buy 4 6-packs.
As many as you want.
Yes.
Okay. So why the restriction on the size of the can and that? I think why the language to be so particular?
Again, it was years ago when they were putting forth what they were going to do, and these were the receptacles that were available. You know, it's 12-ounce cans, 16-ounce cans, and then the growlers and bombers. It's what the applicant asked for, and so we provided it.
Okay, so we're clear that this is good for the applicant, which is currently our only brewery in town. They're fine with all of this as it exists?
Absolutely. This is what they asked for originally, and they've never come to staff and said, we'd like to go a different direction or start, I guess, maybe having a 32-ounce can or something. They haven't asked that.
Okay. And then the other questions I'll have are on distribution and sales. And, for example, on item V, distribution through a licensed distributor of beer on premise to commercial businesses is limited to not more than 5% of annual production per year. I just don't want to limit our businesses if there's not a great reason for it. That would be it.
Sure. Again, it was done in conjunction with the applicant. I don't believe this applicant's anywhere close to 5%. There was some talk as to if it's going to be a large-scale brewery producer and we would be having trucks coming in to pick up. That wasn't really the location that would be best for trucks to be pulling in. You know, there's not a warehouse dock and things of that nature, but that was never their business proposal, and I don't believe it is to this day.
Okay. Well, I know that there were a lot of concessions made at the time, so I'm sure this was kind of a meet halfway in some cases.
Again, I'm not aware of that, but
Okay.
if the brewery would like to come in and say that they want to sell more than 5%, I think they can approach staff with that, just like if they want to sell in a different container.
Okay. And then the last one would be, and it's kind of along those lines, the production and sale of bombers, for example, may occur only 4 times in any 12-month period. The volume of sales of beer brewed on premise or off-premise consumption must be reported annually to the village as part of the requirements of subsection A4A of this section. Again, just trying to take our need to follow these things out of it, if not absolutely necessary. Just simplifying the code is a discussion for the future that I'd love to have.
Sure. So again, I think there's 2 parts there. One about the reporting, and I think the village just wanted to know what was going on with the brewery as it was a new license created for them, how much was being brewed to sell, you know, out in retail versus on premises and things like that. And again, I'm going off my memory. The bomber thing, I think, had a lot to do with breweries like Three Floyds in Indiana that put on big events with coming out with a new thing, and they sell tickets. And I don't know if you've been to the Indiana Festival. It's quite a thing. No, you know, you can't park within 4 blocks and things like that. And so, you know, there was talk with this that they were going to come out with some special beers and they were going to have membership and things like that. And we were saying, okay, 4 seemed to be the right number. I think that was off the Three Floyds number. But if the brewery were saying that they wanted to come with more, that'd be fine to, bring it to staff, and we can, work with staff to see what's appropriate. I certainly haven't heard of any problems with what they're doing. And what number, I can't tell you how many they've done, but I haven't heard of any problems.
Okay. Well, I've spoken about 60/40 before, and in general, I just want to make sure that as a village, we're not making it harder for restaurants to run their business and be profitable and things like this. As I look at it, with or without the input from the businesses, is concerning to me, and it has been for some time. So,
thank you, Trustee Augustine. Okay, any other, we got a comment on the consent agenda?
Yeah, so on this and the item B, just questions. So on section 4, paragraph A, it's just confusing that it says that we've now, the majority must generate the majority of its sales, and we scratched out more than 60%. That yet we come back in and say proof that 60% of all retail sales, and then we scratch out 60% again. It seems if you make it the majority, that's 51%. Then we come back after we scratched out 60. It just seems that's not a very clear worded statement, could be challenged by a business because we've taken out 60, added it back in different places. It's just not clearly worded. Are we trying to say we're moving to 51% or?
I don't know if Charity Jones remembers exactly what was the purpose.
The strike-through language is the language that's being removed. The underline is the addition. The reason that the first sentence was streamlined was because there was additional text that was added to clarify that the 60% food sales is not inclusive of other types of sales that may not be subject to sales tax. Or other revenue that a business might have that isn't subject to sales tax. So rather than repeating that very long provision that's in the second paragraph, the first paragraph was just shortened to streamline all of the language in that provision.
Okay, cool. And then just one last question on section B. I know it says we're granting, but in the back end of the notes, it again goes back into the Stone Avenue, and changing the Stone Avenue is in no way included in this proposal, that we're not going to give them the street.
Correct. This is just a cleanup. The item last time was to include the zoning map amendment as well at the last meeting, and that was inadvertently left out of the packet. So that ordinance has now been included. There is absolutely no change to Stone Avenue as part of this.
That would still have to come back before the board and be approved.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Thompson. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would ask Deputy Clerk Jones to call a roll call vote.
Yes,
we do have a motion and a second.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee McGee. Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
And Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Moving on to current business. First up is a resolution approving a contract between the Village of LaGrange and Abbey Company for Parking Lot 3 reconstruction. And I would refer that to Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thrilled to be discussing this resolution to restructure Parking Lot 3. This is the parking lot that's basically between Elm and Aging Care Connections on the north side of Harris, where Madison dead ends. I'm especially thrilled to see this project come through in this way because we've been looking to do permeable pavers to repair this lot for several years now. As many may know, we have 3 other permeable paver lots in the village, and that is very good for water drainage. It's very ecological. It's the right thing to do, but it happens to be much more expensive than simply paving over a lot, so it's a financial consideration. But our staff and Rick Colby over here in particular were patient, and they applied and reapplied to get funding and other grants to offset costs, and we were accepted this year by MWRD to get this lot done. So it's a really major thing for us. It's probably something that the EQC is happy to hear if they haven't heard already, and I'm sure you have. So congratulations to the village for sticking with it and holding on and patching that parking lot until we were able to do this and do it right. Not only does it look great, it is just so good for the village, and for our flooding issues, which are very real. So the capital and parking funds for this include funding for the resurfacing of, as I said, Lot 3 with permeable pavers. And for those of you who think that that's just bricks with water going in between them, it's not that at all. It's actually a very detailed several-foot hole that they dig with several types of rock aggregate for proper drainage. So it goes into the ground instead of right into the sewer like everything else. So it's a wonderful thing, and if we could, we would do all of our roads and services in this way, and maybe someday we can. But this is, so this project captures a minimum of 37,800 gallons of stormwater in a typical rain event, under the terms of an intergovernmental agreement with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, approved on November 13th of 2023 for the project. The MWRD will reimburse this village for a maximum of 44.2% of the total construction cost, for an amount not to exceed $197,000. The project is also funded through a DCEO grant of $125,000, and in discussions with Rick Colby of our Public Works Department, it runs maybe a little bit more than it would if we were to just surface this with asphalt, but it's very close because of these considerations. So it's really it's a no-brainer for us to be doing this. One of our engineering companies, Baxter & Woodman, prepared a design for this project, and the bid was advertised on March 5th, 2024, in accordance with the village procurement procedures. Sealed bids were accepted until April 4th of this year, and 4 bidders submitted proposals, with Abbey Company submitting the lowest responsible and responsive bid in the amount of $372.70. The bid compares favorably, approximately $56,000 less than a pre-bid opinion of probable cost, which is $427,225 and some change. Baxter & Woodman and staff have analyzed the bid and recommend awarding the contract to this company. If approved, construction will be planned to occur this summer, as we mentioned earlier, and will include alternative parking on Cossett Avenue school property while Lot 3 is unavailable. And yes, this will not start until after the carnival. A thorough communication effort will occur alongside this and will include direct communications with nearby businesses and residents, advanced signage regarding the construction and alternative parking available, and a broadly shared notification through the village communications outlets. Our staff is recommending approval of the proposed resolution, approving a contract between the Village of LaGrange and Abbey Company Incorporated for parking lot 3 reconstruction. And I motion that we approve for the approval of this resolution.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee McGee. With that, any discussion regarding the permeable paver project for Lot 3? Seeing none, as Trustee Augustine stated, it's a great thing for the environment. It's the grants make it a great thing for our residents' pocketbooks. So it's wonderful. Win, win, win. And we love those. So with that, I would ask Deputy Clerk Jones for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee McGee. Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. With that, moving on to item B, the 2023-24 fourth quarter financial report, and I'd invite Trustee Thompson to provide an overview of this item.
Thank you, President Kukler. Included in today's agenda is the village's unaudited fourth quarter financial report for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2024. At the end of the fiscal year, the general fund is projected to reflect a positive ending balance of approximately $250,000. This ending balance and concluding balances may change as audit figures are finalized In addition, billing cycles occurring this month in May and the first billing cycle of June will also impact the current year's fiscal revenues and expenditures. Page 1 displays the anticipated financial status at the end of the fiscal year. Pages 4 through 5 of this report provide an overview of the projected status of the general fund as of April 30th, 2024. At the end of the fiscal year, the water fund reflects a deficit of approximately $1,050,280. This deficit is approximately $422,125 less than what was projected in the full year budget. This reflects costs associated with the execution of the Brainerd Avenue water main project. The reduction in the projected deficit is due to better than anticipated performance, with expenditures coming in lower than expected and total revenues coming in as expected. Page 1 displays the anticipated financial status as of the end of the fiscal year. Page 6 provides an overview of the current status of the water fund as of April 30th, 2024. At the end of the fiscal year, the sewer fund reflects a positive ending balance of $50,000. Sewer service fees and investment interest are anticipated to come in under the allocated budget. Page 1 displays the anticipated financial status at the end of the fiscal year, with page 7 providing an overview of the current status of the sewer fund as of April 30th, 2024. At the end of the fiscal year, the parking fund reflects a positive ending balance of approximately $100,000, which is nice to see in this downturn of people working and commuting by train. The parking garage maintenance expenses have remained below the allocated budget. Page 1 displays the anticipated financial status as of the end of the fiscal year, with page 8 providing an overview of the current status of the parking fund as of April 30th, 2024. Page 2 reflects the anticipated financial status at the end of the fiscal year for the police and fire pension funds. Both funds are forecasted to conclude the fiscal year with a greater fund balance compared to their initial balances at the start of the year. This outcome is attributed to lower than expected expenses and higher than anticipated earnings from investments. And finally, page 3 reflects the anticipated financial status at the end of the fiscal year for the Motor Fuel Tax Fund, Barn Fire Insurance Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Equipment Replacement Fund, and finally the Debt Service Fund. Each of these funds reflects a positive ending balance at year end. In light of all major funds being forecast at the end of the fiscal year with a positive balance, a budget amendment is not required. Therefore, I will not be making a motion. And if there's any questions, I would refer to Susie Michael, the Finance Director, for follow-up.
Thank you, Trustee Thompson. With that, you're making the motion? Do we need a motion on that or no motion? Okay, so we're just opening it up for questions, if anybody has questions. Seeing none, I think we can move right on to C, if that's, correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yep.
Trustee Thompson, if you can go with C.
Thank you, President Kukler. This is a resolution adopting the full year 24-25 operating and capital improvements budgets. The village's annual operating and capital improvement budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2024 is a key document that sets forth spending priorities and revenue sources over the next 5 years. Numerous budget discussions were held over the past 6 months to develop this final budget document and 5-year financial plan. The budget process began in November 2023 with a public hearing of the preliminary property tax levy, adoption of the final 2023 property tax levy in December, and continued workshops to discuss capital projects in February and operating budgets in March. A public hearing was held as part of the village board meeting on April 8th, 2024 to provide the public with an opportunity to comment on budget documents. The final full year 2024-25 budget reinforces the village's commitment to prudent financial stewardship and maintains the village's stable financial position that has resulted from years of financial discipline by the village board and staff. In total, the village is proposing a $43 million operating budget and capital improvements budget for the year 2024-25. The various operating funds and the department budgets were discussed in detail at the budget workshops held on March 16, 2024. The general fund, which is the village's main operating budget, reflects an estimated expenditure fund balance revenue of $522,716 at the end of the fiscal year, April 30th, 2025. Based upon revenue and expenditure projections appearing in the village's 5-year operating and capital budget plan, the general fund reserve balance is projected to be at 48.45% of the end of the full year 28-29, which falls just below the targeted revenue range of 50 to 75% of annual operating expenditures. Staff is monitoring the projected balances and working on initiatives to bring the balance within the targeted range prior to the development of the full year 28-29 budget. Reflected within the document is the village's continued effort to build on and refine its service model for the best of the service of the community. This year's budget reflects the target of having fully staffed across all operating departments. Capital budget improvements continue to remain a strategic priority for the village. As a part of the village's commitment to addressing aging infrastructure, the budget includes $7.3 million of capital expenditures scheduled for next year. Major projects include the South Basin sewer improvements as well as street reconstruction on Brainerd and Chalmette Avenues. Roadway construction costs for Brainerd and Chalmette Avenue projects are primarily funded 70% by federal surface transportation grants, which help maximize the impact of expenditures of limited villages' resources. Additionally, projects include sewer lining in various sections of the village, streetscape improvements between the Central and West End Business District, and engineering and construction costs related to the 50th Street Storm Sewer Project, which is contingent on based on the outcome of the current litigation between the village and Heidelberg Materials. The village's proposed budget shows a continued commitment of the capital fund of $2.5 million annually. The transfer reflects the village's continued emphasis on improving the village's aging infrastructure. The transfer will also support bond funding for future infrastructure projects. The proposed budget accounts for investments in community priorities and maintains the vitality of the village while ever mindful of managing the cost of local government services. With conservative revenue projections and the proposed expenditures, the village is able to continue to deliver high-quality village services and continue to advance the village's board strategic priorities. Attached is a resolution approving the full year 24-25 budget, which is the sole budget required for approval as the subsequent fiscal year budgets through full year 28-29 are presented for future planning purposes only. The five-year budget projections provide a comprehensive planning tool for forecasting revenue and expenditures for the future years in an effort to maintain the village's strong financial position over the long term. Staff recommends an approval of the proposed budget resolution adapting the full year 24-25 operating capital and improvements plan, and I move that we adopt the full year 24-25 plan.
Thank you, Trustee Thompson and Trustee Augustine. Did you say second? Trustee McGee, thank you for that. With that, any comments on the budget? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously, which is great. So moving on, at this time, does anyone in the audience wish to comment on matters not on tonight's agenda?
Hi, my name is John Pluto. These are all my neighbors that came out, and we're all interested in what's going on. Everybody's got a stake in this with the flood control program that we're going to start. And I really would like to say I think we need some reassurance and some community input would be nice in this. Virginia lives on a street where she's got blue on the maps where she lives. Jim's right on the fringe of it. We're about 500 feet away from being a FEMA district, you know. So when we hear water control and engineering, we get scared. You're talking about bringing a lot of water from the west to the east, and we really got to know where that water is going to go before you bring it there. So we all got, there's some of us that are 45 years and 50 years in the neighborhood. So we got a lot into our places, and we really want to stay there and not have any problems. if you know what I mean. So I think it starts out with that 51st Street sewer. And that is the problem that floods East Avenue. Okay? And it also surcharges some of the places up along 51st Street and 9th Avenue. I'm not sure because I haven't been able to talk to the people that live there, but that kind of filters down and causes problems down at 50th Street and so forth. I think we need to do a study on that sewer. That comes all the way from, it drains Brainerd Avenue. It's got the stink of Brainerd on it. And it also goes over to Linkletter and catches the whole part in front of the hospital too on the north side. So that carries a tremendous amount of water. In fact, in 1995, they had to put a 3-foot extension over to 50th Street, and that is what is now feeding the quarry outlet. So it takes a lot of water. So between that and the new 50th Street sewer, we want it done right. I think we should do a comprehensive study on the McCook ditch, and I know the sanitary district says it's good, but we got to get there. And that means the sewer on 47th Street's got to be big enough, and then we got the crossing under the railroad tracks, and everybody shuns away from that. They say, oh, that's IDOT. Well, somebody's got to fix it. Sometime it's got to get fixed. And I have some pictures here for you of the air shaft that's at 49th Street. That's right across from Laura's house, and it was falling in. I finally got somebody from the state to come out, and they brought a crew and took 2 days to fix it. So that 51st Street sewer is a forgotten sewer. Nobody wants to own it. And we need to get that under control. We need to know how much water can go through that when IDOT comes in there and redoes that corner. Somebody's got to start pushing them for answers and fixing it. It's been like that for probably 35 years. So in light of that, I think that'll pretty much do it. I'm going to give you the pictures this time, Mark. Okay. And you can keep them.
I will give them to staff to keep. You also earlier today gave me some maps prepared by, recently by Burke Engineering and then previous engineers, and we'll figure out if there's any discrepancies and why. Perfect. Thank you. To all my problems, or what Mr. Pluto said is he handed me a document that was the magic answer to who cut the pipe. So I'll take any answers that I'm given. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you for the pictures. We will make sure that the engineers who will understand actually what these pictures are showing, read them and see them and analyze them, as well as the documents you provided me earlier. So I appreciate all of that. Any other questions for matters not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to move to trustee comments. We will be going into closed session tonight, but I want any trustee that wishes to comment the opportunity to do so before we go into closed session. Trustee Peterson.
Thank you, President Kukler. I just wanted to mention that over the weekend, I took advantage of the Repair Cafe that was hosted by Lyons Township office, and it was staffed by volunteers. They had small repairs of electronic items. They had a seamstress, which I needed, and they are able to fix small electronics. There were some high schoolers there, so they were all very friendly. It was very welcoming, and they have them, I think they had one already this year back in January. This was the second one. We were celebrating Earth Day. So just want to say thank you. It was well attended, and it was a great idea.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Trustee Peterson, any other comments? Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, President Kukler. I had two things. One was just, again, a statement about how the Heidelberg Materials Quarry is blasting again, and it seems maybe worse than ever. And I feel like I've said that before. It's pretty bad. The blasts are sustained. So again, if you haven't already, there's more to come, but there is a group on Facebook, so just kind of type in Lyons Township and Quarry and you'll find it. And please join it for more information on how we can work together to do something about not just the quarry blasting, but the dust that comes from there and the truck dangers. So it's something that we know we can make a difference on, but we need to get a lot of folks involved and make our voice loud. And the other thing is, and we talked about it earlier tonight, if any of you have gotten a letter in the mail recently from the Pet Parade, they send these letters out to a lot of folks. If you've donated before, you get them every year, to fill out a raffle ticket and send it in, and that helps support the Pet Parade. By far our most beloved event here in town. It puts us on the map. Many people know us because of it. Many people maybe move here because of it, because they've experienced it and they love the town all the better for having been here with their children. It's a wonderful event. It's going on, I believe, its 78th year. And it's doing well, but it's all volunteer management. A lot of people think that this is a LaGrange event. It's not. It was started by residents, and it is managed by residents. There's one person on staff part-time. It is an absolutely amazing group of people from around the area who put this together, and they have for many, many years. So about $100,000 or so to put this together every year. They raise it from advertisers and entry fees and various areas and donations from us. So they'll be kicking off a campaign soon to get more of us engaged, to understand that it will take us, if this is going to continue. The family that founded it, the Breen family, are aging out and retiring. They'd like to turn it over to the next generation. So as President Kukler said earlier, they're looking for help, they're looking for donations. And if we all would pay attention when we see something pop up on Facebook or in the mail or in the news, click on that, send whatever you might be able to afford if you can, and support this great institution. Get involved. They're always looking for volunteers. It's really worth repeating. It's a wonderful event, and the village certainly does supply some funding. It's minimal, and everything else comes from them. So if we can support it, I think we can be really even more proud the next time we attend. Let's keep it going. So the more you know. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Okay. At this time, it's the intention of the village board to meet in closed session under the provisions of the Illinois Open Meetings Act and Section 2C5, the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, 2C11, probable or imminent litigation, and 2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed under the act. The village board will not reconvene to open session, as no formal action will occur during the closed session. May I have a motion and a second to enter into closed session?
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine and Trustee McGee. With that, I'd ask Deputy Clerk Jones for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
Trustee Gale?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee Thompson?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. We are going to enter closed session. We're leaving at 8:46, and we'll be hopefully starting shortly thereafter. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming.